Good evening, Little Masters, and welcome to episode 20 of the Rings of Power Wrap-Up.
It's time to pull up a bench here in the common room, folks. I'm James Tauber, the Sage of the South.
And I'm Sara Brown, Shield Maiden of Rohan. We're both here with the Man of the West, Alan Sisto.
And tonight we are going to be talking about the episode called The Eye. Because, of course, now we're all keeping an eye out for Celeborn.
And Galadriel has no idea where he is.
Have you checked under the couch cushions?
Just in case. But a quick welcome for those of you joining us for the first time. Here at the Rings of Power Wrap-Up, we talk about the plot, characters, and lore behind Amazon's The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power.
And we also dive into some of Tolkien's biggest themes like free will, fellowship, mortality, and why we should leave scary cultists alone, and do our fair share of speculating.
You'll learn something new about Middle-earth every time you listen, and we hope you'll have a few laughs in the process. We're glad you've joined us.
And we hope you'll be glad you joined as well. So before we get into this week's episode, we want to remind you to check out Alan's original show, The Prancing Pony Podcast.
For more than 6 years, the Prancing Pony Podcast has walked its way through Tolkien's books, from the Silmarillion to the Lord of the Rings, and this season, the podcast is continuing that effort with The Return of the King.
Now, some say that the PPP is the finest Tolkien podcast this side of Bree. And this season, I'm co-hosting episodes with a real all-star lineup of folks from the Tolkien community. Humbly, I'd like to think that there's no better companion for your extended trip through Middle-earth than the Prancing Pony podcast.
Now, before we get into this week's release, do we have any clarifications to make from last week's episode?
I think we do. We got a lot of information given to us in varying volumes of significance related to volcanoes, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that. James, I think you actually were the first one to send me some information on some of the scientific stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think there were two issues that got raised. One was the ability of water to trigger the explosion.
Yeah.
And the other was the sort of survival of a pyroclastic flow. Certainly, a lot of information that I got sent and read in various places said that water absolutely can trigger explosions.
Yeah, I know I was skeptical about that, but it turns out that's absolutely a way that they get water interacting with magma.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily the case with a dormant volcano.
Yeah, water's not going to turn that into an active one, right? It's not gonna,
right.
Just add water. Yeah.
But if you've got magma. Yeah, you can get these steam eruptions.
Yeah.
That can occasionally cause those kind of hugely violent eruptions that we saw in the episode.
And that's called a phreatomagmatic eruption, right? I believe that's the scientific word for it.
I'll take your the word of others on that.
Correctly.
Yes.
I may be absolutely. I'm thinking not Cheeto-magmatic, but phreatomagmatic. You got to have the right snack there. No, a phreatomagmatic eruption, but of course that's a type of eruption, not a type of flow. And so we've also had some questions about the flow. Right? We talked about it as a pyroclastic flow, similar to what came out of Vesuvius, that literally boiled the blood of the people in Herculaneum, instantaneously killing them. 500 degrees Celsius heat. That's still something that it appears is what's happening here. I mean, maybe survivability based on distance. We could look into that. But what are your thoughts on the survivability based on the heat that we saw coming down that mountain?
No, I hope they got their heat shields engaged before actually, like Galadriel, standing in front of it.
Seriously.
But I think when you see the scenes and you see the damage caused, it's quite clear that there's a bunch of people who haven't made it through because it was a really, really violent eruption, and they weren't that far away.
No, certainly not based on how long it took that flow to reach them.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose, we could look at the exact distances on the maps based on what we've seen of where the village was, things like that. But, I think that the whole point is that let's not get phreatomagmatic confused with pyroclastic, because one is a type of eruption and the other is the type of flow.
The type of eruption, wasn't that actually what caused the Icelandic eruption of Eyjafjallajökull?
Oh, I knew you could do it. I'm so impressed, James. That was like a little softball toss right across the middle of the plate. Yeah, I'm waiting. I'm gonna set him up. And, yeah.
I need to hear that again. Go.
Mm-hmm. Now I can't do it under pressure. I can't do it now.
Oh my goodness!
Performance
it's like me
anxiety
and Oyolose, except in its original Aztec Tenicuetl.
I'll bring it up when you least expect it. I'll just throw it in there later.
I bet you will.
I'll look forward to that.
Name your next kid that incredible Icelandic volcano name. And I can hardly believe it was 12 years ago, but that 2010 eruption that interrupted air travel all over Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I remember when that happened, but that was a water-magma interaction or a frito-magmatic eruption. However, it caused a pyroclastic flow, and we would expect to see that sort of thing from a frito-magmatic eruption here. Incredibly hot, the kind of temperature that would kill every living creature in its path, orcs, men, and even really, really endurance swimming elves. I just have to say, that's not a skill that would have saved her.
Well, it was very orange when we saw it, so maybe it is Cheeto-magmatic.
Cheeto-magmatic. I'm liking that a lot. They wake up with like orange dust all over them. Like, tasty.
Lick it off their fingers, yes.
Right, exactly.
What happened?
Oh, covered in Cheeto dust. That's a really unusual
Gross
thing.
idea.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Let's talk about boats.
Yeah, let's move on from that, please. Let's move on. So, we definitely poked fun at the size of the boats. We couldn't possibly imagine the cavalry force as well as all the soldiers and the sailors and everything else needed on that boat. After seeing the camp at the end of the episode, I know they couldn't have fit all of that in 3 boats.
No way. I mean, all of that stuff for the camp as well?
Yeah. They brought everything with them for the camp and the 300-strong cavalry members. No.
Told you, they have to be a TARDIS, those boats.
They have to be. Lots of memes floating around with these, massive underwater hulls. But here's an interesting little bit of the lore that I don't know why we didn't think of this last week. Unfinished Tales says that the Númenorians didn't even use cavalry. Now, it's in a different place in Unfinished Tales than you might think. It's actually in the Disaster of the Gladden Fields. And it's a footnote there, footnote 7. And it says, the Númenorians in their own land possessed horses, which they esteemed. Okay, fair enough so far. But they did not use them in war, for all their wars were overseas. In other words, they never tried to put their horses on a boat.
Right. Never put your horse on a boat.
Now we know why. Maybe this is why.
Yeah,
maybe that was their one attempt, didn't work out.
Okay, that's fair.
Let's not do it again.
Okay, then it goes on to say, in their settlements on the shores of Middle-earth, they acquired and bred horses, but used them little for riding, except in sport and pleasure. In war, they were used only by couriers and by bodies of light-armed archers, often not of Númenorian race.
Well, that's interesting.
They don't even seem to be riding horses very much, let alone galloping like the Rohirrim across the plains to the rescue in a cavalry charge.
Yeah. So a little bit of a reach there, but at least it gave them a chance to have some, cool cavalry scenes, I suppose.
Well, it would have been a bit of a walk from the top of the Anduin all the way down to...
Boy, it sure would have.
Yeah, so...
They wouldn't have gotten there in time if it was an infantry.
No, they kind of needed to gallop because running would not have got them there in time.
There wouldn't even been much of a village to clean up at that point.
Yeah. No.
All right. Any other corrections, clarifications, addendums, that kind of thing?
Don't think so.
All right. Well, then let's go ahead and dive into the storylines. Oh boy, in episode 7, some really, really interesting things here. We're going to start with the first, and I think one of the biggest storylines, and that's Galadriel and the Númenorians. It's the one where we open on her eyes covered in the thick ash. Briefly, let's talk about how well this is shot, shall we?
Yeah, I mean, the color use in all of the episodes has been amazing.
Yeah.
And what has struck me in most of the episodes up until this point is the range of color. Right? They've just had this wonderful palette.
Yes.
And I think that really made it even more dramatic in this episode that all of a sudden we've got this monochrome cinematography.
Yeah.
It was all the more striking as a result of the breadth of color that we've seen up until this point.
I agree. I also thought it was interesting that the sound was so well done. You really felt that sense of disorientation that Galadriel would feel at that moment.
Yes. Yeah. Like, because, you've had the explosions and you've had so much noise and then suddenly the noise stops and it's almost like everything's dampened.
Yeah.
Because your ears would be ringing and you'd be disoriented, as you said. And they just had this sort of, the wind sort of howling through, but it took a while before you could hear voices. And so it's kind of experiencing it as a viewer in the same way as Galadriel was experiencing it with that that lack of sound for a bit while you kind of sort your head out.
Yeah.
And little bits of sound trickling through bit by bit until you orient yourself and then you start to actually hear the world again. Mm-hmm. And that felt really realistic to me. Not that I've been inside a volcanic eruption, but it felt like that would be kind of the way in which it would feel when you're coming round after that kind of traumatic experience.
After any sort of, like an explosion of some kind or anything along those lines. I mean, I gripe and moan about the realism of any of those people surviving the volcanic eruption and the pyroclastic flow. But the sequence was incredibly well done. Like you said, the color temperature, the sort of that monochromatic look, especially in contrast with the rich palettes that we've been seeing all along. Combine that with the audio, the particular camera angles that were used, which I thought were very interesting. We really got this sense, of the disorientation and of the gathering of the senses. And even as she started to hear voices, it was a while before you could make out the words that were being spoken as well. There was a real gradual sense of that.
There were some moments of real horror as well. The burning horse.
Oh, my goodness.
For example.
Yes.
And these are just like blink moments where, there's a horse running past and it's on fire. And then there was a man on fire on the ground as well. Yeah. They're just moments of absolute horror that are happening around her as well. And all of that serves to create this atmosphere that's going on in this time.
Little known Easter egg, that was actually Anakin Skywalker. Oh, man, I'm sorry about that. Sorry, not sorry. She, being Galadriel, does end up teaming up with Theo, who's, of course, looking for his mother. I did find it interesting and sort of an obvious plot device that even though there are clearly other survivors at this point, that somehow the two of them wander off together to have their own little storyline while the rest of the Númenorians and the rest of the Southlanders have a separate storyline. I thought that was a little on the nose, but it was effective, so I'll let it go. What about this situation with Isildur?
Poor Isildur. We knew that Ontamo was going to die, right? I mean, the poor guy has been wearing a red shirt since the very beginning. He was just too sweet.
I think, there was a lot of debate over whether it was going to be, Valandil or Ontamo that was going to be. We knew one of them was going to die.
Well, yeah, Ontamo was going to die first, and then it's going to be.
Well, yeah. I think it had to be Ontamo because he was the one, remember, in the previous episode that said he was done with fighting. He was interested in just staying in the village and helping them rebuild.
Yeah. And he was the one who, before they left, we had that scene in the bar with him and his fiancée.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah, he might as well have worn a target on his forehead. But, I mean, the way in which we found out that he was dead was very effective, don't you think?
Yeah.
When Isildur pulls Valandil out from underneath the rubble, and then Ontamo's body just sort of rolls behind.
Oh.
And Valandil's been under there. He wouldn't have known that Ontamo was dead behind him because, of course, his head was sticking out the wrong way.
Right,
so he wouldn't have known. He wouldn't have seen him.
No.
So it was kind of a shocking moment, wasn't it? When you just saw that.
It was. Interestingly, of course, the Queen's involved here, right? I mean, she's not just directing things. She's not just a supervisor, right? She's actually trying to help Isildur free Valandil at the moment.
We see her willing to risk her life.
Yeah.
To help others, which I thought was a really nice character moment for her.
I did too. And, she goes into that burning building. I mean, Isildur leads the way. Yeah. She goes in there to save that family, to effect that rescue. And of course, they get out, the Queen gets out, but Isildur does not.
Yeah. I think one of the most effective and affecting moments for me was that moment where Elendil asks, "Where is he?"
Yes.
And his voice shakes. I mean, it's so beautifully done. It's heartbreaking.
It is. You definitely feel the emotion in that moment.
Yeah, when he realizes his son is gone. His son is, well, obviously he thinks his son is dead. Yeah. That was beautifully acted, I thought. It was absolutely heartbreaking.
Yeah, by Muriel as well. I mean, she didn't want to give the news. It was something she was able to communicate without words. And you could see the look of loss on her face. And you could see the moment that it hit Elendil. Yeah. But yeah, he wants to know where he is. And I think we're going to get a moment next week that's going to remind us a little bit of Aragorn's horse, finding him at the bottom of the cliff.
Oh, yes.
I think
What makes you think that?
seeing Beric run off later on
Yeah.
is setting that up completely.
Oh, beautifully.
Absolutely. Yeah. Beric's like, why are you leaving Isildur behind? No,
Right.
I'm not getting on that boat without my Isildur.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
He may be annoying. He may never see anything through, but he's my Isildur, and I'm going to go find him. Yeah.
And they've set up that link between the horse and the rider. They're going to have the payoff.
You bet they will.
Yes. Yeah. Where is the horse and the rider? Huh?
Oh, well played.
Thank you. I'll be here all week.
Before we move on, there was a little line that I just wanted to touch on. Galadriel and Theo are out there, and she's pointing to where she believes the Númenorians will gather, which is this ridge, past this ridge. That is where they will hie to, she says. And I actually had to look that one up. I knew kind of what it meant in context, right? That's where they're going to go. That's where they're going to hurry up. It does mean, of course, to go in haste. So in case you were wondering, folks, what that means. But interesting conversations with Galadriel and Theo, and that's where we're going to go back to. Talk to me about what appears to be a change of heart, right? In talking of orc slaying, Theo says, oh, that's good. When she says that she's killed many orcs, she chastises him and says, it darkens the heart to call dark deeds good. Go.
Yeah. Is this the same Galadriel?
No, seriously. Who are you and what have you done with Galadriel?
Exactly. The contrast couldn't be more striking.
Has she learned a lesson?
I'm wondering, is this the beginning of that transition from Galadriel to the wise?
Well, given how she seems to be she's taking on a lot of guilt in this episode.
Yes, she is carrying quite a burden here.
I'm wondering if that's related to this. She's realizing these people are all there because of her.
Yeah.
And also other decisions she's made during the whole course of things has led them to this point. And she's taking on that burden and that guilt.
And Elendil thinks that she should.
Oh, yeah. I hadn't even thought about that. You're right. Elendil's ticked. I mean, clearly he is grieving what he perceives to be the loss of his son.
Yes.
So I can understand that. I do hope that particular diversion of his arc doesn't stay for very long. I'd like to see that resolved even before the end of the season next week, just because I want to see Elendil be the elf friend that we know him to be.
Yes.
I don't want to see that hostility drag out any longer than necessary, but I get it from the perspective of somebody who's lost his son and believes that to be Galadriel's fault.
I think Miriel will talk him out of it.
I think so. Miriel certainly has come a long way.
Yes.
Although we're seeing a change in her, which we'll come to.
Yes, I do want to talk about that, and not just her vision. We will talk on that, but
no, I mean her some of her language.
Yes, yeah. I think I know where you're going with this. Are you referring to the way she calls back to her father, but by his Adonaic name?
Yeah, there's a number of reasons why she may have done that, which we can come to.
Let's do that when we get there.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm glad you were thinking about it, James, because I was going to ask you about that. That really struck me at the time.
That really threw me last night as I'm watching it going, I mean, I know that was his name, and yet at the same time, why is she referring to him by that name? That's the name that he had before he took the throne.
Exactly. Yeah, it struck me, and I got a message from Elise saying, why did she call him by his Adonaic name? It's a lot of people are wondering that. Yeah. So we'll come to it.
Yeah, what's the symbolism of that? But let's come to that, because I want to stick right now with the Galadriel and Theo conversations. There's some really important bits that happen here, and not just the big one, right? The big storyline mentioned where it's the jaw dropper of the episode. Have you lost somebody close? Well, yeah, I lost my brother. Oh, and my husband, Celeborn. Wait a minute, what now?
So do we want to talk about that now, or do we want to talk about the other parts of the discussion? We'll talk about that now?
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the Celeborn bit now. I think we need to move to that one before we get further on into that conversation with Theo.
Yeah, so one of the things I want to point out is that up until this point, there's been no discussion or mention of spouses amongst the elves.
Not for the elves.
We've never heard a wife or husband mentioned before. And in fact, all the elves that we've seen up until this point, as far as we understand, are single.
They're all happy bachelors.
And so to have even just the fact that she has a husband, it's kind of that was not most people's bingo card if they're not book readers, right? She was probably the least likely person to turn out to have a spouse. So that alone. But of course, this is wonderful because one of the criticisms that certain people have made is that this show's ridiculous. Everyone knows that by now Galadriel's supposed to be married to Celeborn. Well, guess what? She is. 99. No.
It's childish and I'm here for it.
That's right. All you people that thought, well, what are they doing? They're completely disrespecting the lore because where's Celeborn? She should be married by now. She is. She may be widowed, or at least she thinks she is, which we know she shouldn't be.
Yeah, before they start thinking, oh, but they've killed off Celeborn. No, have they though?
I haven't seen the body yet. I don't know. And even if they have, I think they will use his reintroduction, because he will undoubtedly come back, to talk about or introduce the concept of rehousing, of Fëanor and the way the elves are bound to the life of Arda, which I think will also be an interesting little moment for Galadriel. Oh, I'm glad you wanted to come back, Celeborn. Why didn't my brother want to come back?
Yes, good point.
Yeah. I mean, you wonder why Galadriel wouldn't want to go back to the West then, because surely she would find Celeborn.
It really throws her choice to jump off the boat. It makes that a bigger choice even than we thought at the time. There's one thing to say, okay, I want to go see my brother, but I feel like I've got an unfinished job to do what he was trying to do, right? I'm trying to finish his job for him. But now it's also, I could have seen my husband, though she would have found out he's probably not there. I think he's probably in some sort of dungeon someplace, captured by the bad guys, is my hunch, but it's just a hunch at this point.
Yeah.
More of a guess even than a hunch. What did you think, by the way, of her all too brief description of how they met? They met in a glade of flowers dancing.
Oh, it's a Beren and Luthien moment.
Yes.
It was cringy. I felt it cheapened the whole. I mean, I know they're trying to make these references, but it cheapened the whole thing for me.
Yeah. I kind of thought it's nice to have a little Easter egg, but yeah, I'm somewhere between the two. Like, oh, that was a Beren and Luthien moment. Oh, wait a minute. That should have been Beren and Luthien.
Yeah, exactly.
You two are about as romantic as a dumpster.
Wow.
I thought it was
brutal.
Sweet. I liked it.
We have been handed our cynicism, James, and told it is not appealing.
I'm going to fight back on that.
Okay, I'm going to sit back and watch. Yeah.
It's because we're so romantic that we want the meet cute to be unique and not just a carbon copy of somebody else's meet cute. That's
okay. I actually did like it. Yes, because it's an Easter egg also, but also because you could hear that the memory in her voice and the way it's something that's special to her. The look
on her face, I think it's one of the few times we've seen her anything other than angry. She had a smile on her face.
There was a real joy in her eyes.
Although I have to say, I'm looking forward to when Celeborn does show up and he says, "Tell me, where is Halbrand? For I desire much to speak to
the desire to speak to
Halbrand ducks behind the sofa. Who, me? Yeah. Yeah. And the moment in this that really made me chuckle was when she said, "And my husband, Celeborn," and Theo was, "You have a husband?"
Yeah, the look on Theo's face. I was too busy being shocked myself to pay attention to it on the first glance. But yeah, you're like, wait, somebody married you?
I know, right?
It's like when Harry met Sally and Sally finds out that Harry's engaged and the reaction is, "Who is she?"
Yeah. Why is she?
That. Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of funny.
It was. It really was. And of course, we know that he can't be dead, or if he's dead, he's going to come back. I mean, we will see him, just as we're going to see Círdan next season. I think we'll see Celeborn. This conversation with Theo continues with some really interesting stuff philosophically, right? I mean, Theo takes responsibility for all of these things because he says, he gave power to the enemy. I liked her advice there, right? She says, don't pick up that burden. Put that burden down. She essentially absolves him. And she gets into a statement here that I really enjoyed. I want us to take a couple of minutes to talk about. She says that there are powers beyond darkness at work in this world. We need to trust to their designs and surrender our own. And this totally put me in mind of something that, and folks listening to this show, if you've not listened to the Prancing Pony podcast, the idea of spibimi, will be alien to you. So let me just explain. It is an acronym, SPBMI, and it stands for Shall Prove But Mine Instrument, and is the Prancing Pony Podcast's way of shorthand referring to this idea of Iluvatar making good out of evil, right? Which is what that phrase goes back to. It goes back to Iluvatar saying to Melkor, basically, try all the bad stuff you want. I'm going to find a way to make good come out of it. And essentially, I feel like that's what she's talking about here, right? I mean, some good, we've got to let these plans carry out and hope that we're going to see the good out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that was really interesting that she's saying things like this. I mean, this is a Galadriel who we've seen being very angry, turning her back on Valinor for her own reasons. This is not a message I would have expected the Galadriel of episode 1 to have given somebody.
No, you're right.
You know, there's designs outside of our own. We should surrender our own. This is not the Galadriel of the first couple of episodes, you know?
No,
it's almost like she has, as Adar kind of told her to do, she's looked in a mirror and seen what she's become and has had a oh my goodness moment and has really started to think about what she has become, who she has become. And I think she's actually learned from that encounter with Adar.
Yeah.
Because that first bit where she counsels Theo, it darkens the heart to call dark deeds good, followed by this, there are powers beyond darkness at work in this world, trust to their designs. Yeah. Well, she certainly has not been trusting in their designs, but maybe she's considering doing that now and kind of surrendering a bit to that, which is perhaps the idea of I'm going to Gil-galad now and I'm just going to take what's coming.
Exactly. It is still somewhat reluctant, though. I noticed, I mean, I like the idea, trust to their designs and surrender our own. But if you remember, she prefaces that by saying, perhaps we've little choice but to trust to their designs and surrender our own. It's sort of a fatalistic approach, which makes some sense if you're an elf, right? I mean, we know, those of us who are steeped in the lore, know that the music is as fate to all else. That is, to anybody but man. Men are the only one who can change their fate, which again always puts me in mind of Brave. Change their fate. So she says that perhaps we've little choice but to trust their designs. Absolutely, you have little choice but to trust their designs, because guess what? The music is fate to you, Galadriel. It's not necessarily to Theo, but that doesn't mean that Spibimi isn't a thing for him. It doesn't mean that Iluvatar's not at work trying to make some good out of these evil circumstances.
Why do you think they're not mentioning Iluvatar and the Valar?
Oh my goodness, they came so close to mentioning Iluvatar in the moment when Galadriel and Halbrand were in the jail cells in Númenor. And Galadriel says something about, how did she put it? Do you remember, James?
She basically says something along the lines of, you know, men won't admit. They basically use other names like fate and so on when they can't admit forces that are really behind.
But there's something greater. Right. And then she fails to mention the forces.
She's avoiding naming
the irony there was rich.
But I actually like that, because that to me is very characteristic of Tolkien.
Yeah, it is.
The Tolkien very rarely put on the lips of people, particularly in Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah.
The Valar at all.
No, let alone Eru or Iluvatar, right?
Not at all. And I think I like that, because I think it's placing them at exactly the right level of distance.
Yes.
That Tolkien describes them at.
We do hear a lot of the Valar mentioned from time to time. I mean, primarily Aule, right? I mean, the dwarves are referencing Aule a lot.
Yes.
But I believe we've heard the names of some of the others. I can't recall off the top of my head.
Manwë has been mentioned. Yavanna gets alluded to without her name being mentioned by Arondir.
And I think we get a sort of a sideways glance at Ulmo when we talk about the sea is always right.
Yes.
I think there's something to be said there. So, yeah, we don't get explicit names dropped all the time. And like you said, I think that's right, because it is a rare occurrence in the actual stories.
In the case of people like Theo, he could very well think that they're a myth and made up, right? Because
I'm sure
that was an important characteristic of the men that stayed in Middle-earth.
Yeah, the low men, yeah.
particularly the ones to the east, that they were essentially told, I mean, even in the First Age.
Yeah.
When they first came across Finrod, right? They're like,
Right.
is this a god?
Yeah.
Because and those that chose not to go west looking for the light pretty much came to the conclusion that Valar were made up. And in fact, the only Valar that actually existed was Melkor.
Yeah. That's a very good point. I remember that. Well, we're already running. Well, we're not running long, but we're still on the first discussion point. So let's skip forward quite a bit to talk about some of the more significant items in this thread. I mean, yeah, it's really cool to see that tense moment with the orcs and Theo and Galadriel. Yes, it was great to see Theo reunited with his mother, and great to see that they can do special effects with, all the gruesome injuries that we saw. But let's get to what matters in the storyline. Obviously, Miriel being blind. Let's talk about that real quick, and then we'll get to kind of the wrap-up of that particular thread.
I thought it was interesting that, remember, her father's prophecy to her was that if she went to Middle-earth...
What was awaiting her?
Yeah, darkness was awaiting her. And, of course, we took that thematically, but it turns out to be quite literal.
They meant it both, right? Yeah. The darkness of, the sun being blotted out by the volcano, and now her vision being removed. My goodness. Well, with the blind Miriel now wearing that sash across her eyes, and Elendil sort of being the greeter, if you will, Galadriel approaches, takes a knee, and I love that moment because Miriel reminds her that no one kneels in Númenor. Galadriel's like, I don't care, you're not in Númenor. I'm showing respect. This is another one of those moments where Galadriel's feeling guilty, isn't it? Where she takes on a burden that isn't necessarily hers.
Yeah. Did anyone else think that Miriel with the blindfold looked a lot like Lady Justice?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
Yes, indeed. Blind Justice, yes. I wonder if that was intentional because, I mean, she then goes on to talk about...
Yeah, given all the other visual allusions they've made, not just to the Peter Jackson movies, but to works of fine art and everything, I would be very surprised if it wasn't deliberate.
Yeah, I think that was.
Yeah, especially with what she goes on to say to Galadriel, that they don't know what they've started and, that she's going to bring the judgment on those who've done this. So
she's bringing down the hammer.
So now can we talk about the fact that she is daughter of Ar Inziladun?
Yes, because that's how she refers to herself when she vows that Númenor will return, right? Ar Inziladun. So that's Tar Palantir's Adunaic name. It's the name that he had before he took the throne. And when he took the throne and became Tar Palantir, he was the first in generations to return to the Quenya naming tradition. So talk to me about the reasons why she might be referring to him by his Adunaic name.
So I think they range from something as simple as they didn't want to confuse the audience with the word Palantir.
Oh, wow.
Is one possibility.
Except that if in the X-ray, he was named Tar Palantir in the
X-ray, he's always named Tar Palantir.
Yeah.
Which is a potential counter-argument to that. It's interesting that he's always called that sort of officially outside of dialogue. This, I believe, I don't know that he's ever been called Tar Palantir in dialogue.
I don't know. You're right. He's not been named at all. He's just been your father or the king.
The other thing I think it's important to note is that all of the kings and queens had both names.
That is true. Even the anti-elf faction still took those names out of fear of violating tradition.
There was a period of time where they still wrote the elvish name in the King's Scrolls.
Yes.
Because they thought, I'm not willing to go that far. They did ultimately change that, but they still had Quenya names. And even the ones that had Quenya names, because this was a bilingual society, it does not surprise me at all that they would have names in both languages, particularly before they became rulers. What's at issue is what name did they receive the scepter?
Right.
So the fact that he would be referred to by an Adonaic name, I don't necessarily know is particularly sinister.
It just seems an interesting choice at this point.
It does seem an interesting choice.
Especially she's speaking to Galadriel.
Yes.
I mean, I think that's where the significance comes into play.
I'm wondering, other people have again suggested this, that perhaps she was asserting a certain Númenorian authority here.
Yeah. Superiority.
Yes, exactly. Some people that I've spoken to on Twitter even go so far as to suggest this is setting up her turn from away from the faithful
No, I think the trailer for next week's episode reveals that won't be the case, because she literally says to Elendil that the price of being the faithful is such and
sacrifice.
Sacrifice, yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think that we're going to be seeing her turn. I think what we're seeing, of course, is now the setup for Ar-Pharazôn, right? She's going to go back, but now she's blind. Her father is failing in his health, and it's going to be Ar-Pharazôn who leads the larger return force to accomplish this mission.
I wonder if she'll go back home to find her father dead.
Yeah.
I wonder. Yeah.
Dead by pillow. Yeah.
Maybe. But I think you're right. I think this really sets it up for Ar-Pharazôn for Pharazôn. He's not Ar-Pharazôn yet.
Yeah, eventually, yes.
But yeah, he's certainly on his way, because the idea that the queen is blind would be a good excuse for him to say she can't rule fully because of this, and that she's therefore weakened. And then she comes back minus a bunch of soldiers and horses, etc., and says, no, we got to go back.
Yeah.
At that point, he's probably going to say, why?
Mm-hmm.
Because there'll be a lot of grieving families on Númenor who have never lost children, because sons and daughters went, remember?
I remember that. Mm-hmm.
They have never lost children to war before in this particular version of the story. So I think that she would have a battle on her hands, not a literal one, but certainly a war of words with Pharazôn if she comes back blind, burned, and having gone through all this trauma, and then says, no, we're heading back off again. Let's gather the troops. So good luck to Miriel with that, especially if her father is dead as well. And Pharazôn sees his way to forcing her hand in whatever way seems best to him.
Oh, yeah. I wonder if they are going to go that route where he forces her to marry him. Yeah.
It would not surprise me if they don't.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
The blindness may be a way of avoiding that.
Yeah, that he can set her aside and the people will support that because she is damaged in some way and therefore can't rule, and that she's, trying to force them back into a war that is not their war, as Pharazôn would argue. This is the elves and the low men. What's it got to do with us?
We installed him as king. It's not our fault that his kingdom lasted all of 5 minutes.
Yes,
I mean, volcano. That's what can we do? Pharazôn may not be thrilled with the idea that Númenor is going to have to go back. At least he's going to argue against that. But there's somebody else who was pretty unhappy about it, and it was Elendil. Mm-hmm. That moment when he is just sobbing without making a noise, as Miriel is calling him.
Yeah. Can I just point out that on the subtitles, it says sniffles.
Oh, no.
Yes, it did. It did say sniffles.
Did it really say sniffles?
It said sniffles. I noticed that too.
That is pathetic.
Elendil is not sniffling.
That should say manly sobbing. It shouldn't say sniffles.
It does. It says sniffles.
But they were chocolatey. They were chocolately sniffles for sure.
Oh my goodness.
So I noticed that too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very sad moment, and you can see the trauma and the sorrow, and then And then I'm trying not to pay attention to sniffling underneath.
The subtitles sometimes are winners, aren't they? Well, we'll touch on one last bit, actually two tiny last bits on this thread, and then we're going to have to take a break and move on. I wanted to touch on the idea that the refugees are now going to be headed to Pelargir. I thought that was an interesting little touch.
Mm-hmm.
Am I thinking too far ahead to think that maybe Arondir and Bronwyn may end up a little further west than that in a place called Dol Amroth, and they might somehow be the ancestors of one Imrahil?
Yes, I think too far.
I know. It's my headcanon.
Nice thought.
Halbrand. Okay, he's badly hurt, but they just found him by the side of the road, did they?
Yes. I echo your scare quotes there, Alan, but you know how skeptical I am of Halbrand. And like I said last week, whether he's Sauron or not Sauron or whatever's going on with him, that man is dodgy.
Dodgy is a good way of putting it. Dodgy's a great way of putting it. We don't know.
Gently British way of calling him out. I mean, we did not see him getting injured.
No.
At all. In fact, at the very beginning, Galadriel's running around shouting for Halbrand.
Right.
No sign of Halbrand. Wonder where Halbrand is. And then he's found, as you say, on the side of the road with this wound that requires elvish medicine. Okay, how did he get the wound?
Yeah. Well, do you remember before the eruption when there was a single cut to where Adar had been being held prisoner in that barn? Adar was gone.
Adar was gone, yes, indeed. Has there been more sleight of hand here? Yeah. I mean, okay, I'm still sailing on the good ship Halbrand is Sauron, I'm afraid.
Are you?
Yes, I am.
I'm still hoping that Halbrand ends up being the king of the dead. I like the idea of him deciding, I'm going to do the right thing. I'll side with the good guys. And then he betrays because he's got a blood oath to Morgoth.
I like that story because I think in looking back, it would be a lovely setup of who the king of the dead is. But all the evidence just keeps pointing to Halbrand being Sauron.
Which is why I'm going to say it can't be Halbrand, because that's not how mystery boxes work. All the evidence points to A and ends up being C.
Yeah, I was talking to Sara about this before. I suspect what will happen is that in some sense, it will turn out that Halbrand is Sauron, but not in a way that we could have predicted. Not in, and maybe even a way that it's contentious whether the house would pay that bet or not. I don't know whether it relates to Adar's comment about splitting Sauron in two.
Oh, no. We're not going the Harry Potter route with the multiple.
I don't know, but there's just something. I suspect that Halbrand will be Sauron, but not in the way that we expect.
Sauron as he should have been.
Very good.
Something else just occurred to me when we were talking about Halbrand's injury and Adar's disappearance. What if the Halbrand that we see with the injury is somehow not the Halbrand?
Not the same. We know that Sauron can change appearances still, right? He has not lost that ability.
There's just something about Adar's disappearance. So the real test will be Halbrand is now presumably being taken to Lindon.
Which is a long way to go with a wound that is basically...
With sepsis, yes,
septic,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this mortal wound. It's all itchy.
Except if he's not mortal.
Oh, man. It's also going to hurt a lot on horseback, bouncing up and down with that abdominal injury. I'm sorry, man.
I know.
No.
I mean, yeah, that's completely unrealistic. But if he does show up in Lindon, it will be very interesting to see what Gil-galad and Elrond's reaction to him is.
And what happens to the corruption on the tree.
Does he get sent to a Region because Gil-galad won't accept him in Lindon? It'll be interesting.
Why would you stop at a Region? It's only halfway to Lindon. I would stop there if you're talking about elvish medicine, but that's just me.
I would too.
Interesting stuff. Well, we have managed to spend half the episode on a single storyline, so we're going to have real fun after the break. We'll come right back, folks.
We're about to get back to our conversation about today's episode, but we want to remind you that when you finish listening, the talk continues all night long at the Rings of Power wrap-up.
We have an amazing community of listeners, and they really do keep the conversation going. From the Rings of Power group on Facebook, our Twitter feed, our Reddit community, and more.
Now, on Facebook, just look for Rings Wrap-Up. Be sure to follow the page so that you get all of our posts and episodes, but also join our group for some really great discussions on the show and on each of our episodes.
And if you're on Reddit, look us up at r/Rings Wrap-Up and follow us on Twitter and Instagram, where we're at Rings Wrap-Up.
And a quick favour to ask, if you like the show, please help us by giving us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts and recommend us to your friends.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Well, let's go ahead and get back into the storylines. We're going to jump over to the Harfoot storyline. Lots of things happen here. Obviously, the big keys are the stranger and the moments related to him. As they're journeying along, they catch what smells like wood smoke. They think, oh, everybody's arrived to the grove. They're baking already. Oh, no, it's just the remnants of lava ejection. So
it's not quite as bad as the prediction, remember, that I made, Sara, in our class last week.
Oh, yeah?
I had this horrible fear that the tail end of the trail would find the front of the trail destroyed by the volcano eruption.
By the explosions.
Oh, I see. They would show up and have the rest of the Harfoots be just dead from lava.
Toasted Harfoot.
That was my fear, and I'm glad it didn't quite turn out that way. Although, as it turns out, something similar happens later.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting, by the way, on the overhead shot, you could see really clear signs that this had been farmed orchard land. Mm-hmm. I mean, there were rows, actual horizontal rows.
Yes.
To make it clear, this was not just a place where trees grew of their own accord. This had been a tended place, but not anymore. It did make me think Entwives. This is the region of the world where they would have been active.
Right.
Had they been, doing the orchards like Treebeard talks about, they liked. So, I don't know, maybe.
And Sadok does remind us that some trees can talk. Yeah.
I loved that little reference. That was a nice little side comment there. As we see the Harfoots harvesting this ash-covered fruit, we cut to the stranger as Sadok is talking about a new evil rising. Clearly, we're supposed to, once again, they're playing games with us, think that maybe, just maybe, the stranger is the new evil rising that Sadok says volcanoes presage. Is that the feeling you got as well from that particular moment?
Well, there's already, as we're entering this scene, we've got heightened suspicion of the stranger. Oh, yeah. Nori is avoiding him. He's now right at the back. He's pulling along the wagon still.
Yeah, he's still helping.
But nobody's talking to him, and Nori is ignoring him. And then you get that moment where Sadok kind of gives it the side eye. And we're all meant to think, okay, so now the stranger is completely isolated. The Harfoots are all against him again. And then we get the moment where he goes to the tree.
Yes.
And he's doing something to the tree. I really want James to talk to us.
I was about to say, I'm going to hand this off to James right here about the Quenya.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a wonderful Quenya lesson, in fact. It is. I might incorporate it in future classes. So he says 4 things. He says, E cauta, he says, E enviata, lotena, and A quita.
Right.
And 3 of those start with that A, which is the way in Quenya that you mark an imperative. It's the way that you give a command, an instruction.
Okay.
And so what follows in each case is a verb. The keuta, the evinyata, and the kyuta are all verbs that respectively mean sort of refresh, renew, and live. And so he's instructing the trees to refresh, to be renewed, and to live. And we see a couple of these words actually in Lord of the Rings. So Evinyata, which means renew, we see in the name, one of the names given to Aragorn, Evinyatar,
right,
which means the renewer.
Yeah. It's actually, I think, a name he takes upon himself.
In chapter 8.
When he takes the throne, because he's now uniting the 2 kingdoms again, and that's what makes him the renewer.
Slightly more successful at the renaming than poor Turin, but...
oh, my goodness, yes. Oh, poor Turin. Just stop taking names. It's just not going to work. Oh, man, that's a whole nother episode.
The verb kyuta, live, we find when they're praising the halflings.
Oh, yeah.
We get quio. This is the Aglario. They're singing that they want the half-elves to have a long life, is that reference there. And then, of course, we get lotte na. So lotte is a noun. It's the word for flower. We get it in vingalotte and in ninqualotte.
Right.
And na is the way of expressing the verb to be in the imperative. Okay. So, in other words, the instruction to tell somebody...
To turn flower from a noun into the verb.
Yeah, to be a flower almost.
Yeah.
Is what lotte na means.
That's beautiful. That was really neat. And when you know that, it does take away the idea that this guy could possibly be evil, right?
It kind of convinced me that he can't be.
He just can't be. I know they keep trying to tell us that he's possibly evil, but I just don't see it.
Every time he's caused any harm, it's been an accident, a clear accident. He doesn't understand his own strength. It's a side effect, not what he was actually trying to do. So including the branch falling.
Yeah, he does it again here when Dilly is nearly crushed by the branch and saved.
Quick moving Nori saves her.
Quick moving Nori,
life.
Exactly. Yeah.
But of course, that is when they lose trust in the stranger altogether. This is where, of course, Sadok talks about Greenwood the Great, a.k.a. Mirkwood, or later to be known as Mirkwood. That's a big forest. Where do you think they are in relation to Greenwood the Great at this moment?
You had a good idea about that, James, didn't you?
Well, I think we've seen them on the map traveling. So I think all the places that they've been have been to the southeast. of the Greenwood. They've been quite close to sort of the north of Before and that makes sense given that when they're within range of the volcano, obviously, because the damage to these trees was from the volcanic eruption.
True.
So I think they're in the southeast of what becomes Mirkwood.
I can buy that. It makes more sense to me than anything at the northern end. There's no way they would have been hit by the volcanic debris that far away. So what men do we think are living on the other side of that? Is this just like the woodsmen, maybe, that we read about in Lord of the Rings that live towards the south end?
I suspect so. Yeah. I don't know whether it was
it's second age. It's hard to say.
Reference, yeah.
But we do get that moment where Sadok hands him a page that has the stars on it, and we get that line about the Harfoots haven't seen these stars in 1,000 years. So again, these are a people that have been around for a long time already, which we don't have any problem with because we know that they were actually in existence before the end of the First Age. So that's fine. But this is where I think we need to remind you what we talked about before. The Earth is flat at this point. So the idea that stars might be visible in some part of the world but not in another doesn't make any sense. The stars that are visible would be visible everywhere on a flat world. So
what's happened to the stars that they might have been there 1,000 years ago but aren't there?
I think the world's already round. I think they're not trying. They're just trying to avoid having to explain that. I don't know. What do you think, James?
Well, I mean, the fact that Galadriel could see the land an hour before Isildur could.
That's true.
Is more of an argument for a flat Earth, but I don't know if they've thought that much detail through, to be honest.
Yeah, good point.
I think it just plays to the story better that this idea that these stars are unusual.
They're very remote. You'd have to be a very, very long way away. That leads me to think Blue Wizard, right? Because we do know that the Blue Wizards end up in the east, very, very far in the east, and that some magic cults grow up around them. In fact, that actually makes me think immediately maybe one of them already landed, and it's his cult that is looking for this one. Maybe Philando is already there and this is Alatar or something like that. I have no idea, but that wouldn't surprise me.
I hope not, because that means that the blue wizard that's gone east has gone bad, because those cultists are not nice people.
They are really not, and we'll get to them for sure. But,
yeah, I mean, remember we discussed last week or the week before the question of whether the mystics were trying to find the stranger because they're on his side or because they're against him. And had they been on his side and sort of seeming to be following the same mission, then it could have been their job is to reunite the Blue Wizards. As you say, Alan, we're about to get to the fact that they're acting very, very differently to the stranger.
Yes, they are. Absolutely. All right. So even though we don't know where those stars are, we're just going to move on from there because, again, we want to get this out quickly to you. I know, folks, we've heard your complaints. We've heard people say, don't worry about making it long. We'd love it if it was long. Guess what? We would too. But we want to get this episode out to you the night that, after the episode is aired, so that way within 24 hours, you're listening to our discussion. That means we do need to keep it a little bit tight. But folks, don't worry. Sara and James and I have been talking about the fact that once the season is done and we've seen the entire story arc for all 8 episodes, we're going to sit down unrestrained by time. Unrestrained. I mean, we're talking 3 hours easy.
Dangerous promise.
Very, very dangerous. Yeah.
You haven't seen James unrestrained. It's, oh boy.
That is a terrifying thought, actually.
Have you, Sara?
Can I take that back?
It's kind of scary.
So the idea, folks, is that we'll have a nice long talk, that we won't be restrained by, Jordan's got to get this edited in 3 hours so that we can get it out to you tonight kind of thing. Okay. So we will get there. But for now, we're going to move forward and we're going to get straight on to Largo Harfoot and his speech, which I really liked, right? We're Harfoots. We don't slay dragons, but there's one thing we do better than anybody else. We stay true to each other. I like the spirit behind this. I admit I cringed when he talked about the heart's bigger than our feet, but thank you, Brothers Hildebrandt. There is nothing in the lore, folks, nothing that suggests that hobbits' feet are disproportionately large. Just saying they're only hairy. They're not large.
And then that got solidified by the Jackson films. So
it did. Absolutely, it did. Fine, whatever. It doesn't make me... It's like elvish hair or elvish ears. I don't really care, but it was a little cringy at that moment just because of the line itself. But I like the spirit.
Except that we stay true to each other, except if we're Decaran.
I know. I thought the same thing. I'm like, coming from him? Coming from the guy they were going to leave behind because he had a broken ankle?
I know. That was kind of uncomfortable. So I thought, yeah, it's a nice idea. But I think we have many examples of where they haven't stayed true to each other.
Yeah.
But, okay.
Like they cut to Poppy at that moment, and you could kind of tell. She was thinking,
So
do you really?
Really?
Yeah, really.
Oh, man.
I think it's important to note that this speech happens after the grove has been healed. Okay, so we know that the grove has been destroyed and the poor Harfoots have been trying to collect very charred apples, and that's all thanks to, being hit by the volcanic fallout.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that's devastating to the Harfoots because they've been traveling to the grove so that they can collect the apples, and then they get there and there's very few apples. There are some.
Well, this is after the cultists have attacked as well, right? This is after they're cleaning up from that attack. So they not only are dealing with what's left of the fruit or the harvest, they're dealing with damaged goods. Their caravans are gone. They're just trying to salvage what they have left.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah, but of course the stranger has healed the grove. They've started collecting the apples. The apples, of course, have been stored in the caravans.
And those have been.
And then the caravans burned to a crisp. So they're really having a bad day.
Is this when they invented apple crisps?
I just thought I would toss you the ball and see if you'd hit it right back at me.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
I did. I'm going to regret doing that one. I did like Malva admitting that she was wrong. I thought that was neat. So then, of course, this speech by Largo sort of prompts Nori to go and find the stranger, right? We stay true to each other. It seems a little off at first, like, we're going to stay true to each other. Why are you leaving? But her point is, he was one of us for a time, and we're going to stay true to him.
Right, yes. And Poppy's line, actually, I think is really important, especially given that Poppy has lost all of her family. And she says, we've left enough folk behind. We're not leaving him. Oh. And coming from Poppy, I think that's particularly important.
Very poignant line. I agree. Mm-hmm. And that's when we get, I think, another nice little touch, which is when Malva admits her wrong thinking, right? She suggests that maybe Sadak could go with them. I like the line that she says, right? What's the good of living if we're not living good?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. Although it was kind of funny that Malva admits her wrong thinking, and then immediately after that, Sadak says, it would be nice if just once you were wrong. I thought, hang on, she was wrong a second ago, and she even admitted it. But okay.
Well, Sadak's definitely a bit fatalistic, right? I mean, fine, I'll do it, but we're all going to die. That was a nice little wrap. Well, we're going to go ahead and move on to the Durin and Elrond storyline. Don't worry, folks. We are going to get to the cultists. They get their own little storyline, okay? Mm-hmm. But let's spend some time talking about, I think, maybe two of the best actors in the entire show. What do y'all think?
Oh, yes. They are divine.
They really are.
Yeah. And in fact, I'm going to say three of the best actors because I've got to throw my Queen Disa in there.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
She's extraordinary in this episode. A little scary.
A little scary. In fact, now I'm on the Disa is Sauron track. She wants all the mithril, so it fits.
Yes, and the mithril is ours, precious.
That's right. Oh man, if she had said precious, I think I would have had something.
Yeah, that would have been even more scary. But yeah. I am loving the dynamic between Durin IV and Elrond because it's one of my favorite storylines. Mm-hmm. The real connection between these two. They've healed their friendship to the extent that Durin is just, he wants to help Elrond. This is his friend. Yeah. He helps Elrond to make this big pitch to Durin III.
And it is a big pitch, right? 500 years worth of food and timber, by the way. That's a heck of a deal. But there was a moment there when that was explained that made me kind of raise my eyebrows a little bit, right? The dwarves speaking Khuzdul behind, they're questioning whether the elves could keep that promise. Elrond turns around, having understood them, and says he's never made a promise he hadn't kept. But that means he understands Khuzdul, and we know that the dwarves never teach their language to anybody else. Thoughts? Do you think maybe Durin IV has sort of surreptitiously given him that special edition of Duolingo?
Maybe.
I don't necessarily have a problem with him understanding a certain amount of Khuzdul. I mean, certainly the names that they give one another are a big deal. Yes. And there's another moment in this episode where it looks like Durin's about to reveal to Elrond his secret name.
I like that Elrond stops him, actually. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
It concerns me less just that he would know enough Kuzdul.
That's true. I mean, I suppose even if he's not been taught it, he might pick up from context various words. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we know
he's
a very, very clever elf.
He is. That's true. A very, very clever half elf. And that's actually the thing that he leans on.
Yes.
He leans on, yes.
That was just a perfect transition. Sorry, it was a really good segue.
Yeah.
Because his point is, don't trust any elf. Trust me because I'm a half elf. I know what's wrong with elves. I know our weaknesses.
Yeah.
And I like that
I can
because
see in them what they can't see in themselves.
Exactly. And I like it in particular because it seems to take what Gil-galad has seen as a weakness of Elrond and turn it into a strength.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. It's about time that got turned around, by the way.
Yeah.
Because, Elrond is awesome as a character.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that Gil-galad has treated that half-elven blood as being something less than has always sat slightly uncomfortably, very uncomfortably with me, actually.
Very uncomfortably. And I think it's supposed to, right? I mean, that's how the writers want it to. They want it to come across as very condescending and prejudicial and just not okay.
Yeah. I think so too. Yeah, but I love that moment where he says, he's very, very clear with King Durin. Yeah, no, you can't trust the other elves. You absolutely can't. Well,
trust
that's
me,
quite a stunning indictment, though, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. But Elrond still refers to them as my people.
Yes.
Please save my people. So even though he's half elven, he sees himself as elvish enough that they are his people.
Yeah.
And he goes down on one knee to King Durin.
I thought for sure that D3, that's how I refer to them as D3 and D4 for right now until we can only get the
I'm Durin 3
one.
and Durin 4 as well, yeah.
But, I thought for sure that he was going to get a deal here. And then we get that chat where we get the creation story. Aule made them of fire and rock. And that was an interesting thing about rock, desiring the eternal, fire accepting the temporary nature of things. That's not exactly the way it works. We're not told the material that he used, that Aule used to make the dwarves. We're told what the elves think, that when they die, they go back to the stone from which they're made, but the dwarves don't themselves believe that.
Right.
But there's nothing about fire. But then we get his conclusion, which was a shocker. He's not going to risk dwarven lives to help the elves cheat death.
Right.
Cheat death. Any conversation on that?
Well, I think it's interesting. It's setting up. We've already touched on this when Tamar was shouting in the town square in Númenor, just setting up this tension between the elves and the other peoples of Middle-earth.
The mortal races, yeah.
Exactly. I think so. It's nice that they're doing that, just reminding us that the elves have something different, which is obviously going to be very important later on. I also want to point out one of the things I loved about this whole episode is that the contrasting opinions of D3 and D4 just bring about such a depth to the dwarves. They're avoiding this monoculture that we've seen elsewhere in portrayals of dwarves by saying, you know what, they don't all think the same thing. They're not all just greedy for mithril. There's a nuance to this.
Right.
They care about safety. They care about helping their allies, their friends. So it's just really nice to see a much more complex story being told about the dwarves.
And we also get the idea of dwarven family as well a lot in this episode, because we get talk about D4's mother later on, and it's all very this big family connection, and you were my son and all that sort of, we'll get to that bit. But yeah, it's a far more nuanced reading of the dwarves than Peter Jackson managed, where they were mostly comic relief.
Yeah.
There's still some, humor in the dwarves, but we're laughing with them rather than at them. I think that's a really important difference. And I'm actually really enjoying the way in which we're seeing the different facets of dwarf culture coming through in this. I think that's really great. One thing I wanted to pick up on what D3 says, when he says that he's not willing to risk dwarven lives, he says, because shadow, rock, and mine could bury them. And I just thought that, that discussion of shadow, rock, and mine could bury them. Because shadow here could represent all manner of things, couldn't it?
Like a creature whose wings are metaphorically made of shadow?
Yes, because as we all know, they do not actually have physical wings.
Physical wings, no thank you very
No
much.
physical wings allowed. But yes, I just thought that was a nice little throwaway line there.
Yeah.
Because it turns out D3 is right on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was interested, though, in one of the things he said where he's chalking up the elves' destiny here to fate that was decided for them ages ago. I'm struggling with that a little bit. I mean, yeah, the elves have a fate, right? The music, we've already talked about the predeterminative nature of the music.
And that was decided many ages ago. But
this wouldn't have been. This decay was not part of that plan.
Yeah, so, he says it decided many ages ago by minds wiser and further seeing.
Yeah, presumably he's talking about the Valar and or Eru Ilúvatar.
And that he's worried that if they defy their will, the entire kingdom might fall.
Kind of reminds me of Miriel saying she wouldn't go against the gods back when she thought that it was the Valar's will that they not get involved.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of things to say about this, including the fact that, yes, if you go digging for this mithril, then the kingdom of Khazad-dûm will fall.
Will fall. We know that.
Yes,
right.
We know that. Yes. Yeah. So in some ways, he's being really prescient here. He is actually, whether he knows it or not. Well, of course, he doesn't really at the moment.
Right. No, you can't.
He's actually foretelling what will happen. Yes, they will dig for the mithril. Yes, it will actually bring about the end of Khazad-dûm.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, D4 talks to Disa about it, and oh my goodness,
man.
she is ticked.
We see a new side of Disa.
I like it. I like her spunk, man. She is just on fire, isn't she?
Yes. Oh, yeah. And look at her just wielding that. It's hammer time for Disa. Yeah, and she's taking it out on that poor piece of metal. She is furious.
I did think it was interesting. She wanted him to go behind the king's back and force his hand. I liked D4's, Durin's response to that. It was very Tolkien-esque when he basically said, he is our king, right? This is one thing that we see in Tolkien is that the monarchy is something we follow, right? We look for a righteous king like an Aragorn, but in the meantime, we do what the authority tells us to do. There's sort of that trend, but especially in a monarchy, especially for a king, we do what the king says.
Yeah, exactly. And that you shouldn't throw the will of the king away like it's nothing. What kind of father would I be to our children if that's what we taught them?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he has his principles and he's sticking to them. Now, later on, she's still having none of it, which I like. But
yeah, she kind of backs off a little bit at this point, but she dials it up by 10
she turns it up
in the second one. Oh boy, turns it up to 11, I think.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
But in the meantime, we get that beautiful moment between Elrond and Durin when Elrond has to leave.
This broke my heart.
I cried. I know. I did too.
Oh my goodness.
Owain Arthur absolutely nailed that. Perhaps the best single moment, certainly the best single moment of this episode and one of the best single moments of the entire 7 episodes so far.
I'm just in love with those two, and their relationship is just, good grief. Owain Arthur just made me choke up. His sheer distress at not being able to help Elrond, that he may never see Elrond again, that it's just, oh my goodness. And
it peaks. His love for Elrond and his relationship with Elrond peaks not in this scene with Elrond, but in the scene later with his father.
Yes.
Which is what results in him getting
deprinted. Yeah. But I want to talk real briefly, James, I want to bring you in here specifically, Mr. Word Nerd, Namadie. Now, I understood Namadie to be glossed as farewell. It's essentially a blessing and be well. But Elrond tells Durin that it means go towards goodness. Can you talk to us about that a little?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So before, when I talked about one of the things the stranger said, one of the things the stranger says is lote na, right? And I pointed out that na is how you tell someone to be something.
Right.
And that's the na
in Namadie
at the start of Namadie, right? And Madie means wellness, happiness, being well. So it's not just health, but I think more broadly. And so I think that's why it makes sense to gloss Namadie as perhaps be well, right? You're just wishing well of somebody. However, John Garth pointed out to me when I tweeted this that there is a mention in Parma Eldalamberon volume 17.
Why does it always come back to Parma Eldalamberon 17?
Because it's in Lord of the Rings. I mean, that's why.
That's fair.
If it's in Lord of the Rings, it's in Parliament of Elrond, Volume 17.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the point of the volume. But there is actually mention of a variant, Númenor, which is glossed towards what is good.
Oh, wow.
Which pretty much tracks what Elrond gives it. So I'd originally thought Elrond was dabbling in a bit of folk linguistics there, and that it really just means be well. But John Garth pointed out that PE 17 does actually tell us a little more about that.
And what I like about that is if that is in Parma Eldalamron 17 and only there,
yes,
that tells us that somebody is doing their homework.
Exactly.
And that gives me some hope. That gives me some hope. And it gives me hope because in the meantime, somebody isn't doing their homework, because when the mithril sample gets slid down the table, it immediately takes away the corruption, like some sort of Marvel Universe thing.
Oh boy, yes. The mithranium is at work here.
I was really hoping that wasn't going to be real. It's looking like that's going to be real.
Gritting my teeth at that.
I could handle the leaf being healed. I'm okay with if it stopped there. If it was just in the presence of mithril, a tree that's dying might gain new life. There's still, to me, a big leap between that and we need to bathe all the elves in this.
Yeah, or we die by spring.
By spring, yeah. There's a big leap for me between those two.
I guess I'm okay if they bring that mithril back and the corruption on the tree goes away.
If it was just the tree.
Yeah.
If the issue, I mean, I understand that why on earth would Durin IV do what he's doing if it's just to say one tree in Linden. But had it just been the tree in Linden, I think I would have been okay with it.
But that, of course, leads to Durin digging with Elrond, and we get that wonderful scene with the two of them. The chemistry between them is just magical. That's when we find out that Elrond lost on purpose, but was getting a little bit tired.
Oh, that was brilliant.
That really was well done. I love that.
Winded.
Yes, I'll have to remember that. But then we get the moment that you talked about earlier about the secret name, right?
Yes. So we know from the books that dwarves all have secret names. It's actually part of the retcon that Tolkien does of why the dwarves in The Hobbit all have names from the Volispar. He says, well, that's not their real names. That's just what the Men of the Dale called them, and I've used Old Norse to represent the language of the Men of the Dale.
Right.
The dwarves really have secret names. I love the fact that, and you mentioned this, Alan, Durin goes to tell Elrond his secret name. It's obvious that's what he's about to do, which is such a remarkable thing for him to do.
It is. Because he's talked about family. We only reveal it to family. And the last word when he mentions the members of family, he says brothers. And then that's when he starts to say
and then he's about to tell him, because it's at that moment you realize, you know what, Elrond, I consider you a brother.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you the name.
Yeah.
And I love, as you said, Alan, that Elrond stops him and says, no, you don't need to,
save it for the other
side. Keep it a
side.
secret.
Save it for the far side.
Yeah.
The far side of what?
Yeah. Of this chamber of mithril, of life, of getting through this challenge. I don't know, but I love it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But of course, that's where they get into all sorts of trouble with the king, and Elrond's kicked out. But ironically, with one piece of mithril left that might be enough for, I don't know, would you say
a ring, maybe
2 or 3 rings? I don't know.
Possibly.
I'm thinking 3, yeah.
A little bit of jewelry.
Only needs to be one.
That's true. It does only need to be one.
It just needs to be Nenya.
It's only one we know, definitely.
That is fair.
A line I want to make sure that we talk about, because I think this is really important when we look at the context of the argument between D3 and D4 that's coming up.
Yeah.
Because Elrond reveals he through the test and all that sort of thing. But then Durin says the mightiest, this is in response to, yes, you're Durin IV, son of Durin III, whose grandfather was Durin the whatever. He says the mightiest thing a dwarf can do is be worthy of the name of his father. And I think that is poignant in the context of this huge blow up between D3 and D4 that comes now.
And boy, it is a huge, huge blow up, isn't it?
Yeah. This is that kind of family at Thanksgiving and they're never speaking to each other again.
Yeah. Yeah. And this really is that. I mean, for all the anger that Durin IV spits at his father holds it together right up until he says, I consider him a brother as if he was fired from the same womb. And that sets the king off.
Yes.
How dare you? And he doesn't just leave it at that. He no longer is calm. He is righteously angry.
I mean, I can understand why he would be. That was quite an extreme thing to say to your father.
Yeah. My wife, my late wife who bore you, you're saying that she should have had this elf son.
Yes.
That is a step too far. I hear what you're saying. I understand that you care about this guy. I understand that you want to save his people, and we disagree about whether we can do that. But wow, that is a step too far. But talk about a step too far. He then goes and de-princifies his son, rips the thing right off his neck.
Yeah. I mean, is there any coming back from that?
I don't know. We know there has to be. Durin IV will end up becoming the king of Khazad-dûm. But
sure. But I mean, can there be any coming back in terms of the relationship between him and his father? And if he's truly de-princed, who does his father think is going to become king?
Well, he does have brothers, right? Because Disa says it's not going to be your brothers.
Yeah.
But it might be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in Durin III's eyes, it sure will be.
Well, Disa's having none of that. She goes full Lady Macbeth.
That's exactly what I was thinking, was Lady Macbeth. It's the total ambition right here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
wow. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. Ours. Yes. This kingdom will be ours. We will rule it and others.
Yeah.
Wow, yes. Disa. Yeah. I mean, she went a little bit scary.
She did.
And yet I just know you'd sign up right away, Sara, if you could.
Oh, yes.
Part of,
absolutely.
to follow her.
My queen.
Exactly.
She went a little bit Peter Jackson Green Galadriel.
She did. Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In place of Durin III, you would have a queen. Yes.
That's awesome. That's good stuff.
She was, she was incredible here. I mean, she is so angry at D3 at this point. So angry that she wants him gone. She is done with him. Absolutely over.
Yeah, he is never coming over for dinner again. That's for certain.
I don't think he's getting any more of that whatever
tail
soup.
Stew.
Yeah. I'm not sure if that's a bad thing or not.
I was going to say, and it takes a while to set. Ooh, I don't think I want any of that.
Yeah. But I mean, she's ambitious, but she is done with kowtowing to D3.
She's really
had
done.
It with him. Yeah. The father-in-law is dead to her at this point.
Wow.
Yep.
Brutal.
Mm-hmm. But still, I would still, you want me to raise your banner, Disa? I am right behind you.
Well, I'm sure we're going to get some more incredible Disa moments, but we get the last bit of that thread, of course, is when King Durin sees the healed leaf, kind of obviously has some thoughts about it, and then tosses it down the cave, the vein of Mithril, and we see it fall and fall and fall. And when it gets to the bottom, it apparently awakens a very light sleeping Balrog.
Well, yeah, I mean, that is a real light sleeper if he's woken up by a leaf.
I just cleaned this place. Who threw this leaf down here? I'm going to kill someone. I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's take a minute. I know we're already running long, but let's take a couple minutes to talk about the possibilities of this Balrog. James, take the lead on this one. I'm going to sit back.
Absolutely. So if you look at the way the Balrogs are described in the Silmarillion and in Lord of the Rings, we basically come to the conclusion. So we know in the Third Age, we're going to have Durin's Bane, the Balrog that we see in the Lord of the Rings.
And it's the only one that we see in the Legendarium outside of the First Age.
Yep.
It's the only one that's mentioned. But if you look at the way the Quenta Silmarillion chapter 24 talks about that the Balrogs were destroyed, save some few that fled and hid themselves in caverns inaccessible at the roots of the earth.
Right.
Plural. Some few that fled.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's talk of rousing from sleep, a thing of terror that had flown from Thangorodrim. That's the description in Lord of the Rings Appendix A.
Right.
But taking the various quotes together, it's obvious that Durin's Bane is not the only Balrog that survived the War of Wrath.
Right.
Others also hid themselves underground.
Mm-hmm.
We know, however, that Durin's Bane has lay hidden since the War of Wrath.
Right.
And didn't appear until Third Age 1980.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Was the year that he was actually woken up. That doesn't mean Durin's Bane was literally sleeping the whole Second Age. It just means he was hidden during that time and was asleep at the time that the dwarves delved too deep in Third Age 1980.
Right.
So I think at the time before the show had started, when we'd seen the Balrog in the trailer, I suggested 4 possibilities of why there was a Balrog in the trailer. One was that it was a First Age flashback.
Yeah.
That's obviously no longer true.
Nope.
I suggested maybe it was the Second Age, but it wasn't Durin's Bane. I think that would be a bit of a stretch for there to be two.
That would be a huge stretch.
Two Balrogs in Khazad-dûm.
Especially considering how many Balrogs are. I know you said a few escaped, but that makes me think
we're probably talking about a couple.
Yeah,
two to three
at the most. Because remember, okay, if we talk about quotes, there's a quote from Morgoth's Ring where Christopher Tolkien points out that in a margin in the notes, my father said that at most there would have been 3 or at best 7 Balrogs. We know that Gothmog was slain by Ecthelion. We know Glorfindel took his. So that leaves 5. And then most were destroyed, but a few escaped. So that would mean 3 destroyed, 2 escaped.
That sounds about right.
I mean,
and I can't imagine them both running hand in hand to Khazad-dûm, can you?
Exactly.
We begin a new life together.
So it almost certainly is Durin's
dancing
Bane.
in a glade of flowers, because that's romance.
Make sure you bring the whip.
Anyway,
nicely played. Woo, yeah.
So, assuming that it is Durin's Bane, which it almost certainly is, he's still hidden. No one's seen him yet, so it's possible no one is going to see him. For another few thousand years. The other possibility is someone else finds him and just doesn't live to tell the tale.
A little early warning system that fails. Yeah, that could be.
All that said, the fact that he was awoken in the cavern that they found the mithril in.
Yeah, and all the way down at the very, very bottom.
Yeah, I don't know. That it could very well be they're going to pull something from the Third Age back into the Second Age. I hope not.
I hope not too,
but it would seem odd that they would bring it up this early on.
Yes.
Why do this in season 1? If it's just a Easter egg for the Third Age.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's Chekhov's gun here, isn't it? You know, if you're going to show it, then you're going to have to do something with it.
Yep.
Exactly.
So I would assume it's going to be more than just there is a Balrog down there, but we're not going to do anything about that.
Yeah, you don't get the special effects guys to make a Balrog and then, leave it on their hard drive someplace. They're going to use this Balrog. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
No doubt.
But I'm still loving the fact that it was woken up by a leaf.
A falling leaf.
Just a leaf. Yes.
Or just in a bad mood. Like he's awake, walking around, and then the leaf hits the floor.
Mind you, it was from one of the special trees from Linden.
That's true. It's an elvish leaf. That made him really mad.
Leaf.
It's a linden leaf.
Like the leaves of linden fall, etc.
Balrogs.
Shall we move on?
Yes, we need to move on. And we're going to move on to the cultists or the acolytes or what did you call them, James? You called them something different.
The mystics. I thought mystics is what the official
I'm sure it is.
Amazon term is.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I just call them cultists because I kept thinking of the cult of Morgoth that they had on Númenor after Sauron got there. And that's how I thought of them early on when we all seemed to think in the trailer that they were on Númenor. Again, trailers are cut to deceive. It's what I said from the get-go. I'm still standing by it. They are very much cut to deceive. I mean, think about it. In the trailer, we saw that moment where the cultist, priestess, acolyte, mystic.
They linked the Balrog to the cultist, yes.
They blow that mist, that black mist, and it looks like that's what ends up being the Balrog, along with Adar's lines of "You've been told many lies of Middle-earth."
Yes.
So, they cut this stuff up in a way to really trick you, and that's fine. That's why I don't play that game. So let's talk about this cultist line and why maybe in the future it'd be a good idea to just stay hidden.
Yes.
Poor Nori. So, after we see them and we watch this strange sensation that clearly they're able to detect where the stranger has gone, Nori tries to pull the old, he went that way trick, and they disappear. That was terrifying.
That was scary. Yes.
Not quite as scary as when that lead cultist or lead mystic decided to try to take something off of Nori's hat. What was that about?
I don't know, but the fact that the lead, whoever, has touched Nori, I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think that can ever be a good thing.
Did you catch that moment in the trailer for the next week's episode?
Yeah.
Where
I avoid those. I avoid those trailers, but somebody posted it to Twitter, so I have seen it.
That looked really eerie. I do not want to see Nori go bad. Nori is Sauron. There we go. There's our answer. Nori has been Sauron all along.
Nori's a blue wizard.
I swear, I'm telling you right now, if we don't get a revelation, a hardcore reveal of who Sauron is at the end of next episode,
what are you going to do?
I think I'm going to do a T-shirt for our podcast that just says, "I am Sauron."
Yes.
And everybody can buy one and be Sauron, because I'm tired of this. This mystery box is getting old.
Yeah. I think we've got to have some kind of revelation at the end of next episode, because it's got to be enough of a to keep us wanting to watch season 2.
11 months from now. Right.
24 months. It's going to be 2 years.
Oh, yeah. It might be even longer. You're right.
They're talking about 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
Well, that's an interesting thought.
Gosh, I hope it isn't. But
I hope it isn't either.
They've got to find a hatch and it ends with the light going on.
Yeah.
Sorry, lost reference.
Let's not do lost references. We've got enough mystery boxes going on.
I know, seriously, that's plenty. So we get this confrontation. I love the bravery, and again, that we don't, we stand up for our people, we stick together. Sadok and Largo threatening these absolutely terrifying people.
Mm-hmm. Who would be so much bigger than them?
I mean, they're already standing up on a ledge, a ridge, compared.
I get the impression that they're tall even for humans.
Yes.
If they're human.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean that. I mean, they're taller than humans.
Yeah. Like they're all 6.5, 7 foot tall type things.
It's not just that the half-foots are short. It's that they are also
very, that's certainly the impression I got as well. Yeah.
But then we get this magic stuff, right? And we're talking actual, dark magic, black magic type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
She takes the fire. She visually steals the fire from Largo's torch, and then the entire village, the entire set of caravans, all simultaneously erupt.
Mm-hmm.
What do we make of this?
That's a terrible moment.
There were a lot of moments in this episode that really were, stabs to the heart. This one, for me, took the cake.
Absolutely.
I think it was just because it was so wanton, right? I mean, it was just
so casually done.
Yeah.
Just unemotional. There
no
was
expression.
Not a trace of an expression on that priestess's face. Just blew the sparks, and then everything goes up, and there's no sense of, wow, look at what I've done, or anything, or even anger or contempt, or there was just nothing.
Coldness.
Nothing at all.
Total detachment.
She did it the way somebody would kill a mosquito on it or something.
Right.
She just seemed annoyed.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm annoyed at you. Bang, gone.
Yeah. Just totally casual. It was horrifying more for me, not just because they destroyed the caravans.
Right.
But because it was just done as if it was nothing.
Yeah.
That was the worst thing about it for me.
It was.
Yeah,
it was
everything
brutal.
the Harfoots had, absolutely everything that keeps them alive, gone.
Yeah. All that effort to get to the Grove, all that sacrifice to get their caravans there over the course of weeks, most likely.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's all gone.
It's all gone. Yes. Yeah. And I do wonder if this is the moment where the Harfoots become hobbits, where they put down roots. Where can they go? How can they go? They have no caravans. Is this a time when they start to put down some roots and say, okay, well, we need to stop in one place now for a while? I don't know. I mean, obviously they have to travel a lot further west before you get anywhere, northwest before you get anywhere near the Shire. But still, how can they possibly travel now? They don't have anything.
It'll take them a long time to rebuild that many caravans. Absolutely.
Yeah, you'd have to chop down the apple trees to do that. And I mean, they're not going to want to do that.
Then you're cutting down your food, right? So that's
exactly.
not going to, All right, well, we're going to wrap up one last storyline because it only appeared on the screen for a few moments, and that's Adar and the Orcs, which, by the way, makes me think of Benny and the Jets. But Adar and the Orcs. Adar and the Orcs. Okay. Cast off your suncloaks and helms. This is our Shadowland. C.S. Lewis wants a word.
Mm-hmm.
This is now our place, and we get Waldred calling him the Lord of the Southlands. But wait, the Southlands no longer exist.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I would have liked to have heard him say the name. I don't know. Were you as underwhelmed as I was by the nameplate?
I thought that was a slightly weird way of doing it. Yes.
It was, but had he said, let's call it Mordor, I would have had just as much of a problem.
Yeah, that's true, because he's not the one who should be naming it.
Yeah, it's like Sauron calling himself Sauron.
Right.
It's not his name for himself. It's what his enemy called him, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Or Morgoth, right? Tolkien is very, very careful.
Yes, he is.
At who calls what.
Mm-hmm.
And so to that extent, I would have been disappointed if he'd named it Mordor. That said, I don't think the way they did it was much better.
Oh.
But, it's whatever. I mean, it doesn't...
I mean, I know that they have used overlay maps and all sorts of ways in which they can bring we do have to remember there are a lot of people who don't know anything about the books at all.
True.
So I can see how they're kind of using the map thing, and instead they're now changing the label of Southlands to something else. I can kind of see it.
Okay.
I did think it was a bit wibbly.
The only thing that would have made it worse is if you heard a little scratching, and they rubbed it out.
You hear the eraser on the paper.
Yeah, exactly.
And all of a sudden it becomes like the Monty Python art in the middle of Holy Grail, where the artist is drawing the
giant foot comes down and crushes them all. Yes.
Actually, that would have been hilarious. I would have gone for that. Probably not a great fit, though, I have to admit.
No, because what has Sauron ever done for us?
Seriously. What a heck of an episode, though. That was interesting. I mean, I don't know that it was quite as, shall we say, eventful as episode 6. Mm-mm. I liked it a little bit better than I did 6. I felt like some of the moments in characters, especially with Galadriel, were really, really enjoyable and I think transformative. Mm-hmm. I think we're starting to see that arc of Galadriel change.
I think this is one of those episodes that gets better when you look back on it.
Yeah.
And think about it. Episode 6 was very immediate.
Yes.
You were right there in the moment. There was so much action, so much going on. I think episode 7 is one of those that is a jewel in the rethinking.
It's going to be a transitional episode, isn't it?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
What's happening here is important. You need the beat of just a little bit quieter, calmer, slower before you hit the final episode of the series arc. You need to do that. You can't keep everything all at the height of episode 6 because that just, in terms of storytelling, that's just too much. But I think that I know that some people are looking at episode 7 going, oh, I'm really disappointed after episode 6. Episode 6 was just so action-packed. Well, yes, episode 6 was action-packed. But episode 7 actually has a lot to say.
Yes.
And I think if you take a moment to stop and think about all of the different things that have happened here, and so much of this is setting up future storylines, actually, I really did like it.
Yeah.
Just in a different way to episode 6.
Mm-hmm. I agree. James, what are your final thoughts on the episode?
I think, Sara summed it up perfectly. I think there were moments in episode 7 that are just so significant in terms of the larger story to tell. 6 was, there was an immediacy to 6.
Yes.
It was fun. 7 didn't have the same impact in that sense.
No, of course not.
But it really, I think now we're seeing things set up.
Yeah.
For subsequent seasons. We're starting to see, we've got a much better sense now of motives and tensions and so, yeah.
I agree.
And I feel like next episode, they're going to leave us on something big.
I sure hope that they give us the information that we need. I need to know more about the stranger or about Sauron by the end of next episode. One or the other has to be identified clearly. But we'll find out. In the meantime, now that we have given folks a chance to send questions in, they have been coming. James, what do we have today?
Yeah, so Justin writes in saying that he's curious to know our thoughts regarding the title sequence. It's obviously not critical to the story, but I think it's beautifully done. I tend to click the skip intro button for most streaming shows, but I like watching the Rings of Power opening for some reason. Sara, what are your thoughts on the title sequence?
Yeah, I understand why people skip the opening sequence because, you want to get to the story, right? Yeah. I tend to skip the recap.
Yeah.
But I don't tend to skip the title sequence simply because it's a moment that sort of brings me back into the story. And I quite like that. But also because the title sequence is a thing of beauty.
Yeah.
It is so gorgeously done and very unusual. I love the way in which they have used vibration to create these patterns. It's absolutely wonderful.
It really is.
Yeah, when this segment first debuted, there were a lot of thoughts online about it.
Right.
And it turns out that many of the symbols we see are similar to what are called Chlodny figures, named for a German physicist and musician. James, I think you know a bit more about that?
Yeah, and I just want to say the thing I love about it is, to me, it's such a allusion to the Einarlindale.
Yes.
This idea that physical things are moved into place through
music.
Audio, through music,
Right.
audio vibrations. That when I first saw it, I thought this is what this is about. I think we see a lot in the symbols that we see. I think a lot of the story is told. The way it works is those figures are formed by, you take some lightweight substance like sand in the case of Rings of Power, and they're put on a rigid surface, and vibrations are just sent through that surface.
Yeah.
Then you have something like a metal tray with sand on it. Those vibrations are from sound, and this phenomenon is called somatics.
Yeah.
And it can lead to some amazingly detailed patterns as a result, just from altering the frequency that the plate's vibrating.
I've seen some people on Twitter and other spaces actually not recreating these specific ones, but actually having a go at doing this themselves.
You're not going to be able to recreate the trees of Valinor or anything like that, but you can definitely do some of these patterns. Now, when this bit about the Chladni figures and cymatics went viral, the creative director behind the opening credits confirmed that those figures were the inspiration for the intro. And Plains of Yonder, they're the production company that put all this together, they explained taking inspiration from J.R.R. Tolkien's Ainur, the immortal angelic beings that sing such beautiful music. So, James, you were right on the right path.
Yep.
Sing such beautiful music that the world is created from their very sound. We conceived of a main title sequence built from the world of sound. Cymatics is a natural phenomenon that makes sound visible to the eye. Vibrations of fine particles on a flat surface display striking symmetrical patterns that reflect audio frequencies. Cymatics are understood, they say, by physicists and mathematicians, but to us mere mortals, they're nothing short of magic. And I think they're right. They look astounding.
Yes, I agree. I mean, to me, it's amazing to watch. And that's one of the reasons why I don't actually skip the title sequence, because I just think it's a thing of absolute beauty that's being created via something so simple.
Especially when you combine it with the music, right? I mean, Howard Shore's score there.
The production company, Plains of Yonder, they went on to say, the sequence conjures an ancient and invisible power struggling to be seen. Symbols form, flow, push, and disappear as quickly as they come. The unknowable realms of sound create fleeting visions of conflict and harmony that move in lockstep with Howard Shore's opening title score.
Yeah.
It's like you were just saying there, Alan, the way in which the sand moves in step with the music that is moving, and you get a new creation with each vibration. To me, that's just extraordinary, and it is really glorious to watch.
It really is. I agree.
And you also get that wonderful creeping in of the discord of Melkor. At one point, the music turns. You see the sand, different colored
black sand come through. Yeah,
looks like a snake. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, brilliantly done.
Fantastic stuff. We ought to reach out to those Plains of Yonder folks. Maybe we can get them on and talk about that sequence, because I'll tell you what, it is pretty impressive.
Oh, that would be amazing. I'd love to talk to them about that.
Well, we'll have to see what we can do. Folks, that concludes another episode of the Rings of Power Wrap-Up, but please be sure to join us again next time when we find out Celeborn is actually Sauron in the season finale.
God. Is there anybody that isn't Sauron at this point?
Seriously.
Maybe Miriel is Sauron. Who knows?
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, thanks to the team that helps us get this show out there every week. Our speedy editor, Jordan Reynolds, our barleyman, Becca Davis, social media manager, Casey Hilsey, and website guru, General Phil Dean.
That's right.
I'm just promoting him every single...
He got a promotion.
Yeah,
exactly.
Lieutenant to captain, now general. Pretty soon he's going to be replacing Farazan.
R. Phil Dean.
It's R. Phil Dean, yes, exactly. Well, speaking of the website, give us a visit there at ringswrapup.com. We've got show notes, our online storefront, and eventually we'll have some outtakes.
You'll also want to take a look at our library page. This show may be about the Amazon adaptation, but the three of us are first and foremost fans of the books. So we provided links for you to get all the lore. We do get a few pennies from the purchases you make there, so thank you in advance.
Indeed. And one last thing, as always, don't forget to send your thoughts, comments, and, well, most of all, your secret dwarven name to Barliman at theprancingponypodcast.com. We have no qualms about knowing that stuff. Now, if you want a chance to have your actual voice heard, you can send us audio of you asking your question by visiting podinbox.com/prancingponypod and record your question for us.
But be sure to send the question to Barliman too. Now, we've been able to rely on Barliman lately, but we do get a lot of mail, so we'll get to you when we can. Your question or comment may be featured on a future episode.
As always, though, this has been far too short a time to spend among such excellent and admirable listeners. But until next time.
Aye, aye. Farewell, friends.